Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of climate change monitoring in Northwest Territories. So this week, like I said before, we're going to be going over fieldwork, experiences, planning, and safety in the field. So hopefully you've already watched the first part of this week's content, and this is part 2, where we'll be doing these Q&A/interviews with different people that are doing work in the field. So research associates, field technicians, students, people that are out there doing the work or similar work that we're going to be doing. So here I have Gabriel Hould Gosselin. Gabriel is a research associate with Wilfrid Laurier University, with Phil Marsh's group, and with University of Montreal with Oliver Sonnentag's group, who you would have met yesterday. So Gabriel, thank you so much for being here today, for answering all the questions that I am going to ask you. So maybe you can start us off with just telling us a little bit about what you do in the field, what your main role is. What are you doing out there?
All right, so hello everyone. So my job as a research associate is half in the field and half in the office from the lab in Montreal. In the field, I plan and experiments and install instruments that monitor environmental variables like temperature, humidity, wind speed, so basic micrometeorology, but also I specialize in greenhouse gas emission measurements. So whether it's at the plant scale or the landscape scale, especially using a technique called covariance. So I also take care of the instruments, make sure that everything works properly, iron out any details if perform repairs, and collect the data. Back in Montreal, I analyze the data, I curate it so that others can use it in our lab group, and I analyze the data, I contribute to writing scientific articles. So pretty much from the start of, okay, how do we get data? What data would we need? How do we get it? What's the experiment, all the way to what's going on with this data and what does it mean?
Yeah, wow. It sounds like you're really involved from the ground up, which is cool to be able to follow the research along until it's done.
Yeah, it's really cool. I get to see and interact with all of the students' projects. So I have my hands in every single project. So I have a good overview of what's going on. It's pretty exciting.
Sounds like a good person to learn from, that's for sure.
Well, I learn a lot from the students as well, so.
Yeah, I guess it's a two-way street. Okay, so we'll move along to question 1. So when setting up a successful and enjoyable day in the field, is there a concept or practice that is really important to you in order for that day to be really successful, and why?
All right, okay, so over the few years that I've had this job, especially this job, I found that having a good field notebook really makes a big difference. So every night or morning after a day, I take the time to take detailed notes of everything I've done in the right order and in as much detail as possible. Not only does it allow me in the future and allow my future self to say, oh, what did I do that day? What did I do that week? In what order did I do things? How did I manage to fix that thing in the end? Or what do I need to do this field season? Like, what's left to do? What did I actually manage to repair last time? But also, it kind of helps me keep track of what I've done so far during the current field campaign, what I need to be doing today or in the next few days. It's a really good planning tool, and it's a really good logging tool. In fact, without it, I would be lost. So I would encourage everyone to keep as much notes as possible. And if you take notes, write more. It's never enough. Even I write novels every time I'm out in the field, and I still miss a few details, and I'm still thinking I should have written how I did this. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point, and everyone should definitely listen to this, in that through our project and through most people's projects, you're going out into the field so sporadically that in order to sort of connect those processes in your mind, I think taking notes is really important and something that everyone could definitely improve on, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So question 2, over the course of a typical day working in the field, what is your favorite time of day and related activity or task, and why? So this could be a work-related or leisurely activity.
Right. So we talked about this before, and I think I don't have a specific time or a specific thing that I really enjoy in the field. For me, especially after a few campaigns, it kind of all blends into one, and I just focus on what I have to do. I don't have a lot of time generally when I do it. So, of course, there's not one thing in particular. There are amazing moments, amazing views, great time with certain groups of people that I've been in the field with. But there's not one thing in particular that I really enjoy. It's more the fact that every time I'm out there, I feel incredibly lucky to just be out there and do the job that I do. So, it could be in the tundra, getting up in the morning and seeing this huge wide open space, or just having coffee with some friends in a camp in the Boreal Forest, or finally getting something to work that I haven't been able to fix for a while. So and there's nothing in particular. It's just the whole thing for me is enriching and great.
That's great. Yeah, I like that answer, and that these great moments don't have to be necessarily conditional to a specific task, and that they can just pop up when you don't expect them, and that can be really, really enjoyable for sure. Can definitely relate there. Okay, question 3. During what circumstances are you the most safety conscious in the field, and what do you do to minimize these risks?
Right. So in the field, it's really easy to become complacent. And the way I see it is, the moment you get outside of town, or I get outside of town, I consider myself in a remote area, because I always leave thinking, what if someone breaks a leg, has trauma, or has an anaphylactic shock because they got stung by a bee and they didn't know they were allergic? How long is it going to take for the rescue to extract that person, or how much effort is it going to take for me to extract that person and stabilize them? And the answer is often from many hours to many days, depending on the condition. So things might not seem dangerous, and we might not be doing things that are dangerous, but the remoteness of the field sites that we go to may mean that we're always in a potentially high risk situation. So I try to always bring whatever I need to for myself, and I always bring extra for others, and I think everyone should be doing the same thing. And I'm especially conscious of that, of course, if riding a skidoo or climbing the tower. Of course, there are situations that have higher risk, but there's just the fact that being out there is already risky. Like cooking breakfast is risky in remote areas, and accidents are always stupid, and they always happen in the worst possible situation. So does that answer the question?
For sure. Yeah. And I like the concept of the fact that time to safety is so much longer, and that's what really affects the risk. And you brought up anaphylactic shock. And I once worked with someone who only had an hour and a half once they came in contact from the allergen to live, period. And so when you're in these remote areas, it can become, yeah, a lot riskier very quickly.
Yep. So keep that in mind, be aware of those risks, and act accordingly to mitigate those risks.
As much as we can, for sure. Okay, great. So question 4, do you have a fieldwork related story or experience that you can share that has significantly impacted your life in a positive way?
Oh, all right, okay. Yeah, I think I've already kind of answered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a particular story really. I mean, I think, some people, like, especially if you grow up in the north, or uh, you're used to going outside and working outside in, let's say, remote areas, then being outside more won't really have a huge impact on your life. I mean, I think it makes a big difference for people who've never gone out in the field and done anything like this, and it can be really it can be a really life-changing experience. For me, going out in the field doesn't really change much. I've acquired that experience somewhere else, and it's fine. But I still feel incredibly lucky to be there, and it improves my life overall. I'd be incredibly unhappy if I didn't have as many opportunities to go out there and do something useful, but in those fantastic, wonderful environments with great people. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more my perspective on this.
Yeah, I like that, because I think a lot of people watching these videos are immersed in nature a lot of the time. And so, it's not going to be a huge change. It's environments that we're all familiar with when we're living in the north, but it does still add something to your life, and that you get to be out there for a specific purpose and for potentially longer than you would have otherwise. So yeah, that's great. Okay, question 5. During what field campaign or period of field work did you learn the most technical skills, and what were these skills?
Okay, so I mean, of course, the first field season, I learned the most. So I came into this job. I wasn't the first to be doing this. I was replacing someone who left. So a lot of the infrastructure that I'm working with now was already installed. A lot of the experiments were already ongoing. My job started off as just making sure that everything worked and install new things. So just keeping the ball rolling. But I mean, I come from a background that is connected to all of this, but a lot of theory and the technical aspects of the job I kind of learned over the first year or two, and then as time progresses, I'm more and more comfortable with the things that I need to know, but I'm still learning every day. Every field season, I learn something new, whether it's technical or whether it's about myself or about the people that I work with, or the way that I interact with other people. It's because we live in the field camps that we're in means that we live in close quarters 24/7 with other people. So there's a lot of learning experiences about living with those people and making sure things work and things go smoothly. So it's not just the technical aspects that I keep learning about. It's everything. But yeah, for sure, technically, for the technical aspects, it's at the start. But again, every field season has new challenges, and I have to do some research and figure out how something works, or how to solve this technical problem. Why is this sensor broken? What can I do to see what's broken in it, and how can I repair it? So there's always something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's really something that's really great about this project, is that there's so much learning involved, and that's what keeps us engaged in a project or a job or a position, is the amount that we get to learn. And perhaps it's less intimidating to hear you say that you're still learning more technical skills. So we're always just trying to learn and figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, if you stop learning, then you might as well do something else, I think.
Yeah, might as well move on. Yeah. Great. Okay. So second last question. So working in a scientific field, sometimes it's hard to communicate certain aspects about what you research. So is there one thing that you wish people could understand about the research and or work that you do?
Yeah, that's a good question, because you know, in different scientific fields, sometimes it's easier to explain what you're doing, sometimes it's a little harder. I think for what we do in this lab, talking about greenhouse gas emissions and landscape scale changes and stuff like that, there's it's not as tangible as, let's say, saying how is the beaver population increase affecting the quality of fish or the number of fish in lakes, let's say. For us, it's okay, so how is this landscape changing over time in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, and what does that mean for the area? What does that mean for the globe? So we're kind of, instead of just looking at one thing in particular and focusing on it, we're kind of a small cog in a larger machine that requires a lot of data from a lot of different places. So once I try to explain things, it's not as interesting from the go, because either it requires a lot of background information to really understand how important it is, or because you can't feel it, you can smell it, you can't touch it, it's not as interesting. It doesn't seem as interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wish I was better at communicating quickly the pertinence of our work, like how important it is and why it's exciting.
Definitely. I would definitely agree there, in that making those connections to different scales quickly is what would keep people interested. And it's just hard to put that many words and that many ideas into like a short sentence. But I think it can be done.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and what we're doing doesn't have a direct impact on people's lives, or what we're finding, like the results we get, and the data we collect doesn't have a direct impact on the lives of people that live in the areas where, or all over the north, because it's the kind of data that you have to look at for years. You have to look at years of data collected, and then you can start talking about what's going on and understanding how nature is adapting to like the warming and the permafrost and everything. So it's not just a physical scale, but it's a time scale as well. It's hard to really capture.
Yeah, you have to be in it for the long haul in order to, make it important for people. Yeah, great. Okay, so last question. What is one personal item that you pack with you when going into the field that you would never forget or hope to never forget at home, and why does this make a difference for you? I wonder what you're gonna say.
Well, you know what I'm gonna say, but apart from, of course, that's talking about personal stuff, because there's tons of gear and tools that if I forget them, I'm kind of stuck. But personal gear is definitely Bamas. So Bamas are kind of thick socks, liners that wick away moisture from your feet, and they're the best thing since sliced bread for me. I would never go out in the field without them, whether it's with rubber boots in autumn, summer, or spring, walking because rubber boots don't breathe, or whether it's in my winter boots. It's kept my feet so dry and so warm. Yeah, I'd never go back. They're amazing. They're $10 a pair, and they last many field seasons. They're one of the best investments I think one can make for personal gear that you wouldn't necessarily think about. So yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good inside scoop for everyone. So we all got to go out and get our bombas now. Thanks.
Oh yeah, if you want, or if you don't already have some. So yeah, they're fantastic.
Awesome. All right, well, that's all the questions that I have for you, Gabriel. Thank you so much for your time and for giving us a better idea of what to expect in terms of experience and safety and planning for the field. We'll probably see Gabriel sometime soon. And yeah, thank you so much for watching today. Stay tuned.
Thanks for your interest. All right, bye.
Bye.